Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to not raise our prices because of tariffs.
Yeah, not yet anyway. As soon as we find out how. Inside Games Daily is still free for now. Keep that in mind. Unlike PlayStation, we've been able to keep prices low, but man, costs are going up all over the board. And while tariffs are in the news, it may not even be because of tariffs. I don't know. What's going on, Bruce?
Oh, it's, tariffs, inflation, pretty much everything because the economy is crashing. So PlayStation announced price increases to digital and physical PlayStation 5s in multiple territories over the last weekend.
Yeah, PlayStation blamed, quote, high inflation and fluctuating exchange rates in making the, quote, tough decision to take more money from your wallet.
So tough. Standard PS5s with a disc drive stay the same price in Europe and the UK, but digital PS5s have gone up 50 euros in Europe to 500 euros and have gone up 40 pounds in the UK to 430 pounds.
Unfortunately, Australia and New Zealand get price increases on both models of PlayStation 5. Australia's digital PS5 goes up 100 Australian bucks to 750, while the physical jumps 30 to 830 Australian dollar. God, that sucks. I'm sorry, Australia. I'm so sorry. New Zealand digital PS5 also went up 90 New Zealand dollars to 860, with the physical PS5 jumping 50 New Zealand dollars to 950. Oh, we Americans like to complain, but that sucks.
That's a lot. The news is slightly mellowed out by price cuts to the PS5 disc drives in those regions. So, for example, a disc drive now costs 70 pounds in the UK, which is down from 100 pounds. The digital PS5 went up by 40 pounds, while the disc drive went down by 30 pounds. So if you wanted to buy the disc drive, I guess you'll save a little money.
Yeah, but it's still a net increase in price over where it used to be.
Yeah.
And also, who are they kidding? Of course, they'd rather have the margin baked into the thing you have to buy first versus the thing you optionally wouldn't buy later. So this is not the first time Sony has just raised the price of PlayStation 5. They did the same back in August of 2022, and it was pretty unprecedented at the time.
It was. They were way ahead of it. At the time, they cited high global inflation rates as well as adverse currency trends. Almost exactly the same thing that they just cited again.
We're going around this wheel faster than we used to, which is not fun. And PlayStation wasn't done there. They've also cited global market conditions while announcing price increases to PlayStation Plus in various global regions a week ago.
Yeah, the regions affected included South America, Australia, Southeast Asia, China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan.
Insider Gaming crunched the numbers there and found a price increase ranging from 8 to 21% across all the regions.
The move seems to put regional prices closer to, but not quite hitting, the equivalent price in the US dollar here.
Yeah, which I think might be a sign that they're shifting from trying to acquire customers to actually now starting to squeeze the margin on them. So in the US, I feel like they've got their install base and now they're making a lot of money off PlayStation Plus. And now they've gone from growing install bases in other regions to making money off of them as well. Good times.
Games Radar points out that the Switch 2, which has faced a lot of blowback for higher than expected prices, will now be cheaper than even the digital-only PS5 when it launches in the UK, Australia, and some European countries like Germany and Spain, that's pretty crazy since the PS5's just been out since 2020.
Yeah, and they might end up running a lot of the same games nowadays. Not in the same way or at the same quality, but might have the same software. What's interesting to note is that in both 2022 and 2025, prices in the United States have remained unaffected.
Yeah, I was noticing that as I was reading these posts on Reddit today about how PS Plus was going up in lots of different places like Canada and other countries, but nothing in the US. So I'm very curious to see when that happens to us, Lawrence, because I feel like it's probably going to happen.
I feel like too. Yeah. I think they already managed to get their prices pretty high in the United States region, which is good for them because the US region is the number one for them. That's definitely been the case in the past. So in a way, I think maybe they're just trying to get everything on par with the US market and the US prices they're charging. PlayStation is, they're getting pretty aggressive with their business, and we might have some insight why, according to a former PlayStation executive.
What is one of my favorite stories? I love these stories. These are the best. So if you're upset about the price increases, an ex-PlayStation executive knows why. It's because they didn't raise the price enough on you already.
Oh, damn. No. Okay. All right. That's a pretty aggressive and reductive way to interpret former Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Sean Layden's comments.
Sure.
but he's also kind of got a point. I mean, the math is there, and it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking to Player Drive and reported by MP First, John Layden points out that inflation has actually made games cheaper over time, which we've been saying on the show for a very long time. Nobody wants to hear it, obviously, because everything else is going up and video games are optional while food is not. So I get it.
Yeah. And, games have found other ways to earn money, but we'll touch on that in a minute. Layden figures that in order to accommodate for inflation, that price increases should have been naturally baked into every console generation software. So instead of trying to hold at 50 or 60 over the course of decades, it should have just been a default $5 every 5 years, I guess, added onto the price.
Here's a quote from the 100 Millionaire. Companies have been reluctant to push that price up because they probably should have done it then. I was in it at the time. Probably every generation they should have baked in a $5 software price hike and make that the typical, well, every generation is another $5. And you would have been up to $90 already by now.
That's true. And in the past, before all these games as service games hit, I would have said that Sony's software, first-party software, probably does need a higher price margin at the register because they don't do a whole lot of add-on monetization, which is really how games have made loads of cash after that. Nintendo, likewise, I know no one wants to pay $80 for Mario Kart, but they're still pretty traditional in that they try to make a big beefy game and put it all on the disc and not hit you with a battle pass or DLC packs or loot packs or anything like that. So Layden is talking about traditional games that are made honestly, selling for the price that they probably need to sell for at the register to cover their costs, especially since game costs have also been, exponentially growing over the years. So I get it, but games have found many other ways to earn their money aside from asking for it at the register. Ugh.
This is when Lawrence wrote this in the script, I laughed out loud reading it because I didn't realize that this was a real thing that you could do. So apparently Jay and Silent Bob are now on Call of Duty for $25 worth of COD points, and you can smoke a joint through someone's skull, which I had no idea. And now I want to go play Call of Duty and give them $25. That sounds awesome.
But if you buy COD and buy the Jay and Silent Bob pack, you're already over the $80 everyone's mad about for Mario Kart. Yeah, pricing is weird. Okay, so before I go on a mini rant, everyone's allowed to be mad about Mario Kart being $80, all right? I'm not telling you that. But try to take a step back and realize just how relative value perceptions can be. This is, markets are forces. They're not controllable, and you can't explain to a market to not behave in the way it does. It just does. But for you as an individual, please be cognizant of the ways that games squeeze more money out of you that they've kind of tricked you into being okay with, because it's mostly about perception. A game may not cost $90, but its early access window sure does. And a lot of people paid $90 for Starfield, and they did it without really being upset because it was early access and you bought the crappy DLC in advance and all this stuff. So there's a bunch of branding tricks people will use to make it so that you don't equate A to B. And that way they can reset your value proposition and sell you something that's really not worth it. Like 3 days early access for $30, or an animation of Silent Bob smoking a joint through somebody's head for $25. Maybe that is worth it to you, but that also means that $10 added on to MSRP for a game should be relatively immaterial if you're okay paying $25 to see Silent Bob smoke a joint through someone's head. So game makers are getting their money how they can. Some are choosing to theoretically be a little more honest about it and ask for it at the register. I would think people would be more okay with that if it meant more traditional kinds of value propositions in games, more stuff on the disc that you can play. I don't know if Mario Kart has that yet. That's where this whole thing kind of falls apart. We haven't seen the direct. Certainly doesn't seem like $80 of Mario Kart to me, but I've long wished that we could get games that just maybe have a higher MSRP, but also justify it by delivering a lot of awesome gameplay without any of the extra bullshit. So that's my point on that, I guess.
So let me get ahead of this, and I'll also do a mini rant. Number one, I don't disagree with Lawrence at all. Number two, all the comments that say Lawrence is a corporate shill, they're going to be shadow banned, just so you know. They're going to all be gone because Lawrence isn't a corporate shill. He's literally trying to explain to you what they're doing and why. And then I'll also give the counterpoint to this, which is smoking a joint through somebody's skull is, to me, right, extra content. I paid the 60 or whatever, 70 for Call of Duty, and then they gave me extra content However, if Mario Kart charges me $80 for the base game, there's going to be a DLC probably in a couple of years or whatever. Regardless, $80 for Mario Kart, no other microtransactions in it. That means you have to trust the company to deliver on the $80. Now, I don't trust any literally no company. So whatever they're putting a price on, I just don't. I'm like, sure, yeah, like maybe they'll give me $70 worth of enjoyment or $80. I usually go to reviews for that, where I go to a Twitch streamer or a YouTuber to see what they have to say about it, because generally speaking, I do not trust companies. They're always trying to squeeze more money out of you. That's what companies do. That is their job. So my job as a consumer is to make sure they don't do that, is to make sure I don't give them all of my money and instead give them the money that I believe they earned from me. So that's very important. And that is, like Lawrence said, it's very smart of companies to be like, oh, you could get this new emote, but it's only an extra $10. Or like, that way it feels like you get something new. When in reality, maybe they would have baked that in. There's probably no way they would have baked in smoking a joint through somebody's skull into Call of Duty, unless the microtransactions worked. And I'll give you a little sneak peek of maybe a news story we do later on this week. But that's all to say that don't trust these companies. Really don't trust on what they are putting a price on. Instead, do your research. And if you think that it's worth it to you to lose $70 of your hard-earned cash for a game that may not live up to $70 worth of playtime, then that is the choice you made. And if you're upset about the Nintendo Switch 2 prices or PlayStation Plus prices or smoking a joint through somebody's skull price, don't buy it. Tell the company with your wallet. Tell the company with your wallet that is not acceptable. And all this early access bullshit that we talk about, people pay for it over and over, so they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, and if that's the method that people need to be okay with paying more for a game, of course that's what people are going to do. Yeah, there's a part of me that appreciates that Nintendo's not playing those games. And I know that everybody's accusing them of being greedy right now, but at least the sticker price is the sticker price. And I appreciate that versus, the early access premium, 3 days, access to a DLC they haven't even really announced or described. Like, that stuff kind of got on my nerves. So it is what it is. What's interesting though is you talk about like making decisions with your wallet. I did in skimming some Reddit threads. The recent price increases have people more than ever debating staying inside the PlayStation ecosystem. That's a drum we bang a lot here. If it's worth it to you and you like the ecosystem, then that's fine. But we just try to raise awareness about the premium you are being charged, constantly being part of that ecosystem. And I think we both frequently espouse PC as a used to be affordable alternative. God, these days, who knows? Tariffs haven't hit that yet, but apparently no one's getting off the hook. So, it's getting spicy out there about where to put your money or what to invest in and when.
Yeah, it really is. And speaking of finding other ways to survive, we'd like to shout out a very special patron that supports our Inside Games Patreon every single month. Talia Monochrome is today's Inside Games Inside Gamer because they bought the most expensive PlayStation they could find just to watch meme compilations on YouTube. That's like me using my Xbox for only streaming services and never playing a game on it.
$500 meme machine. That PSSR makes those fail videos look so good.